Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glen Alexander. And on today's episode of the podcast, I'm rejoined by an old coworker for the USFL, but a Big Ten graduate from Nebraska to see what he thinks about the Big 12, and Trevor Kathol, who rejoins the podcast. Also, another Oklahoma State news, training camp, or I guess fall camp, starts next week. We are 5 days away from when this episode comes out on Thursday, the 24th. So looking forward to fall practice and seeing what this team has in store here for week one against UT Martin next month, believe it or not. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll carry on to the episode.
The CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
All right. Well, Trevor Kathol, former USFL worker, employee, and himself here, is joining me on the podcast. Trevor, how's it going?
It's going great. Having a beautiful summer down here in South Florida. Hot, steamy, and humid everywhere, but you know, you also get the beach, so can't complain too much.
Well, Trevor, I always love bringing you on because you're a Nebraska grad, but also an grad degree grad. So you've been to college in two of the schools and two of the biggest conferences in the nation. So, always good to have you on here. And I know I got some questions for you. You got some questions for me, vice versa here, as Oklahoma State reports to fall camp next week. So it's
already,
football is less than a month away. We're getting excited. Should be a ton of fun. As an Oklahoma State fan and huge supporter, I'm nervous. I don't know how you're feeling about Nebraska, but it's the same way.
Yes and no. I kind of think about it as like Big Ten or Matt Rule, right? It kind of comes down to Matt Rule and then Dana Holgorsen on offense for Nebraska at least. And for me, looking at it, it's year 3. So expectations are up there with the Matt Rule experience, and so I have that behind me. But with that comes a lot of like similarities and differences between his time at Temple, his time at Baylor, and then here at Nebraska.
Yeah. I mean, Matt Rule has got a long list of teams that he has coached for with a lot of success at the Big 12 level. And then a TBD with Nebraska, I would say. I'm not calling it either way yet. Year 3, you're starting to get a lot of his recruits in the door, all type of stuff. But he's virtually the opposite of Gundy, I'd say. He's a guy who was willing to build up the ladder, leave, of course, and then flame out with the Panthers. I don't know how we want to classify that exactly, though.
Yeah, I mean, when you start talking about NFL to college, though, it just really gets into, like Nick Saban, one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach ever in college football, coached 3 seasons with the Miami Dolphins and ran back home to Alabama. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard comparison. It's 2 different leagues, and it's 2 very different coaching styles, and the coaches that have been really successful at both, I mean, it's not a long list, Yeah,
it's really not, which is the hard deal here. I mean, has anyone been successful at both levels that I can think of?
I mean, Pete Carroll, off the top of my head, is, won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Won at USC, just pre-NIL, but paying players or whatever. But, I mean, it was successful in both places, and it happens once in a while, but the list of coaches that it doesn't work is much longer than the list of coaches that it does.
Well, he got Reggie Bush a house, so I don't necessarily want to say it was before the NIL completely or whatever, right? I mean, I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk of some Big 12 football and of course some Big 10 football, the good type of stuff here. So, I don't know. Tell me what you're thinking here. What questions you got for me here as we started out?
Yeah. So something's been going around. Kind of mentioned it. Offense. Dana Holgorsen in Nebraska at least, is getting a lot of pressure put on him to make Nebraska's offense lively, even a little bit. And so a lot of writers in Nebraska, a lot of people around Nebraska are saying he's got the most pressure, maybe even more so than Rule does in year 3. So kind of reversing that. Oklahoma State, you've got 2 new coordinators. Not sure how many position coaches are new. Who's got the pressure outside of Gundy? Hey, if they win 8 games, it was because this coach succeeded. If they win 6 games, this coach could have done better.
So every coach besides Gundy is new. Every single one, down to like the GAs. I mean, it's insane what kind of overhaul they did to the roster and also to the coaching roster as well here too. I would say, to be honest, it's probably if the team is bad, I think it's defensively what happened. I think it's Grantham. I think it's on Todd Grantham, the defensive coordinator, if the team is bad this year, because there's been really good defensive transfers coming in. The defense has not lost a ton. They lost 3 guys to the NFL, but those were all known. And also, a couple of those guys didn't really play last year. They got injured early on. And then on the offensive side, I'd say like a glimmer of hope offensively is great. Got quarterbacks on the roster. None of them have taken a snap and thrown a pass, I should say. Hosseini's taken several snaps at TCU last year, but he still has his red shirt available from my understanding here and everything I'm reading. So I would say Doug Meacham has a pretty long leash here. At the end of the day, when it comes to offensively and offensive coordinator, Gundy will be the one more to blame on the offense if the offense doesn't go well, because it's like, hey, he hired on his guy. What happened? He's got 2 quarterbacks. One, Zane Flores. I don't know how good it'll be. I think it'll be great. We're hyping up. We're really excited about Zane, but like if he doesn't end up being the starter, then that's kind of a lot to say for a guy who for a long time has been, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy for OSU. And then Alan Bowman comes in the door. He ends up starting. Zane doesn't. And it's like, all right, he's a red shirt. Other than Zane. So I'd say defensively, if Oklahoma State breaks down and just isn't what they are and is not what they should be, more or less, like they end up just not being good, then it's going to be light on the defensive side. It's going to be, and not good to me is also like losing games defensively because the defense couldn't get stops. The offense was showing some type of rhythm or some type of humming along, like losing to Cincinnati on homecoming. That would suck. That would really suck. But not being in the game. Like last year, we weren't in the game on homecoming. That sucked. But then you learn, okay, Arizona State wins the whole conference, but we lost 9 games straight to end the season every conference game. So that was never going to be a, hey, at least Arizona State beat us, but at least conference champion. It's like, well, every team beat us. Colorado beat us by 50. It's just kind of insane stuff. So I'm really curious to see like how we end up doing as a team, but I think defensively it is to answer your question.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think, especially in the Big 12, which is generally a more offensive conference. You've got teams that are going to, like Colorado, even with 2 first-time quarterbacks coming in, like they're going to put up points. Yeah, you got to stop them to give your offense a chance, especially if there are some more unknowns on that. It's very interesting. It's a very smart thought process to have.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how the quarterbacks perform, because Hosseini seems like the guy who's going to be a guy who could get a couple extra seconds, if pressure's really getting to him, whereas Zane seems more of the prototypical pocket passer type of guy. But then again, in the limited amount of footage and availability we have, like spring practice, whatever we want to say it was, on top of stuff, Zane looks a little bit more mobile than I would have thought. There's like nothing to go off of. So I'm grasping at straws that I feel like aren't even there. So we'll see how this all breaks out. And fingers crossed UT Martin goes off without a hitch. That'd be a real tough one if University of Tennessee Martins don't go well, I guess is what I should say.
Yeah. So shifting kind of away from that. So I'm going to use Texas Tech as the example here. And this is kind of more of a broad college football question for you. But when you look at Texas Tech and the amount of money they're spending to bring in 5-star linemen and receivers and they're spending a lot of money, which they're not alone in that at all. But as they're spending this money, let's say those wins don't come, right? Texas Tech this year spends $25 million on their roster and they go 7-5, 6-6. And then next year you're spending the same amount or maybe even a little more and you're still not quite getting the wins. At what point does that NIL money start to come back a little bit? And all of a sudden you're not getting the 5 stars because you're not paying for them because you don't have the money.
I think it's really weird because the 5 stars Tech is getting, like I just did a podcast with the UCF guy not too long ago breaking down the whole Big 12 schedule, so that's why I know this. He was really high saying, hey, a UCF transfer is one of the D-line starters for Texas Tech. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not think of UCF as having premier level talent on their defensive line. It just doesn't, it's not something that I'm waking up one day going, and you know what? You know what sucked last year is when we played UCF, their defensive line, or just like that they're known for having a good defensive line, or that they're known for having a good defense. I know RJ Harvey got drafted in the second round, and I know they had Mackenzie Milton forever ago who had a horrible injury. Like that's what I know about UCF, and I know they absolutely just cremated us, as Oklahoma State football fans know, like 42-0. Yeah, not too long. So it's 2023, and of course we've got to go back there again. Can't believe it, but. I think the level of recruiting is something that Tech is putting up a big number dollar-wise. They're putting up a real big amount. Like you've heard 25, on3.com's reporting 10. I've heard 50 million. Like no one really knows is what I would say. So how cool is the donor who is funding this? The billionaire who sold his oil company for billions and billions of dollars. How cool is he with it? Because if he's cool with he's like, hey, you know what? Like, all right, this season we get 10 wins. Sick. I'm cool with it. And then the year after that, we get better. I don't know if Morton is that good of a quarterback. That's what I'm really... To answer your question...
That's probably what their season line lays on, right? Is if he takes a step and is a guy, then you're going to have... I mean, then I really don't see a world where Texas Tech goes 8-4, 7-5 or worse, right? Without terrible injuries and stuff like that. But I mean, if he takes a step and is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the Big 12, and they're going to be tough out.
Yeah, to answer your question like a little more succinctly, I don't know if anyone will care because it's Tech. Like, I don't mean that in a bad way as like, oh, it's Tech. It's a Big 12 team that is not... what am I trying to say here at this point? Like, it's a Big 12 team that is not the best Big 12 team last year. It's not Arizona State. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Like, I think Tech is like one notch below Arizona State this year coming back, just because Sam Leavitt looks pretty darn good. Kay Dunham looks pretty darn good. They've got transfers in. I think Arizona State will be pretty good this year. But during the Big 12 preview that I did for the College Huddle, I said I think Tech's going to win the whole thing because at the end of the day, their index score on 3.com's for anyone that cares is a perfect 100. You can be negative. You can't be over 100, but the next closest team is LSU at 69. But to go back to it, no one's going to care that much because it's not like Garrett Nessmeyer transferred from LSU. Like Tech was like, hey, here's $5 million, come over to Tech. Like they just didn't steal a bunch of SEC or Big Ten recruits. Bryce Underwood, the $10 million rumored guy who went to Michigan, it's not like Tech got him to transfer. So that's my point, is that I don't think it'll matter that much because we as in the Big 12 fan didn't like grab 6 SEC and Big Ten transfers. We didn't get Dylan Raiola, and we as a Big 12 fan, like Tech didn't get the best quarterback, transfer. They just did. They were like, hey, we're good. We're going to just really upgrade here all over the team. But like Tech, they gained 13 4-stars, lost 0 to the portal. They gained 8 3-stars, but they lost 33 stars to the portal. I don't know. What are we going to make of it? Like,
well, and then it kind of comes down to Joey McGuire, right?
Yeah,
I mean, is he and his staff developing these players into draft picks? Like, are these guys going to be guys on Sunday that are, everybody's like, oh crap, we have to go play them? Like, I think that's the question, right?
Well, like I would think, so Nebraska's 12th here, right? And their index score is at 2. Or, excuse me, their index score on 3.com is a 6. I don't know. But they've spent apparently $2.3 million, which looks like a lot more than plenty of schools. Well, like, you've got Matt Rule. At the end of the day, I would trust Matt Rule to put together a good program, all type of stuff. The biggest thing I have an issue with the portal and what's spending it is that, like, Mike Gundy had a soundbite from Big 12 Media Days last week, and he said, yeah, I guess we kind of thought this wouldn't be a thing for a while, so why put a lot of time and effort? We think it's just going to get struck down. But now I guess it's going to be a thing, so you might as well put effort into it. Where I'm going, if I'm Mike Gundy, you returned 20 starters to a team last year. Why would you try in the portal? Like, yeah, depth would have been great. Maybe that's the thing, but like that's such like on the edges. Like, you're not bringing in a bunch of guys depth wise that are going to be really valuable to the program because they're going to want to start somewhere else if they. So versus this year, of course you're going to try in the portal because you lost all these guys to graduation, to transfer portal, to wherever. So it's really just, there's 7 different ways to sell you a ticket to a football game. Well, this year, you and I both know from doing ticket sales, like this year I'd go, hey, Oklahoma State's got a completely new roster. They've got a completely new offense. Like, this is what I'm selling you.
Yeah.
Whereas last year I've been like, hey, we got 20 starters returning. It's how am I selling myself on Oklahoma State football and buying into season tickets year over year? Like, and it's just like in Nebraska, are you going, hey, Dylan Raiola, like Heisman contender? Is that how you're selling yourself in Nebraska? Like, hey, we're going to get to 10 plus wins because Raiola's going to be.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? Like, from a Nebraska fan standpoint, you bring in Dane Key from Kentucky, who is top 5 transfer player in this class. And when you watch Dylan last year, if a defense dropped into zone coverage, no big deal. And, if he had 3 seconds to throw, he's finding the gap in the zone, finding the right player. Man coverage is where he's struggling. Sometimes it was overthrown balls, which happens to everybody. Sometimes it was misreading on an RPO and stuff like that. But when you really watch it, you look at what's going on around it. The whole 22 players. Nebraska's receivers weren't getting any separation. So you start getting a guy like Dane Key, and then this Nasiah Hunter, who was really, really good at Cal, especially with 50-50 balls, just go up and get them. Like, now you're starting to put a little bit of separation on one side, a guy that can go get it on the other. And now you're starting to put an offense where Dylan could potentially have a season where you go, yes, like Nebraska has a guy at quarterback. But as far as that goes, like, telling myself, it just keeps coming back to, and I've heard it over and over and over again, like so much so that I like Matt Rule saying it in off-season pressers and stuff like that. It's year 3. Everything works in year 3. And I look at Nebraska's schedule, and we have 3 games that should be your 50-50 games, right? We've got Michigan in Lincoln, week 4. Add to that, to make it a little bit more coin flip, Sharon Moore sitting that game out as part of his voluntary suspension. Then we have USC in Lincoln. And then we're going to lose to Penn State at Penn State, almost assuredly. So, but like, you get 2 of those 3, you're looking at a Nebraska team that should be 11-1, maybe 10-2 if they stumble somewhere along the line. But like, I find myself drinking the Kool-Aid and then having to take a step back and go, yeah, but Scott Frost last year, I thought they were going to go 9-3. They went 3-9. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, I don't feel like everything has to go right for Nebraska to be 7, 8, 9 wins. And really, I don't even think everything has to go right. I think you need a couple balls to bounce your way for 10 or 11 wins. And I'm not sure where to put all things considered.
Well, when it comes to the Big 12, who do you think of as a Big 10 and SEC guy? Who do you think of in the Big 12? It's like, hey, you know what? I think these are the couple teams to come out of it. I'm not asking you for the winner. I'm just saying, like, when you're thinking the Big 12 this year, who are you thinking of?
You know, I was looking at the Big 12 kind of schedule, kind of going through like my gut check, like go through, kind of predict each game on like playoff predictor or whatever. And the two teams that came out of it, it's just gut check, you know, just going through. They actually played week 1. I had Kansas State and Iowa State being 1 and 2. And I don't know how I feel about that, partially because I don't know that I trust either of those coaches to put together 9-10 win seasons back to back, or 8+ win seasons back to back in Kansas State's case. But then I look at like Kansas State, and you've got Avery Johnson, who could be the best quarterback in the Big 12. Like they've got a couple receivers that are just solid players, and you start putting together a team of solid players, and you're going to win games.
Yeah, I'm really skeptical on Kansas State just because I thought Avery Johnson last year I thought he had played enough his freshman year that his sophomore year, which was last year, he would have made he would have stepped into that role fully. I just thought he was going to be just not like a better Will Howard, but just more options. They could run more things through him. I mean, they also had a running back drafted in the NFL. It just seems like so many different Big 12 teams had a really, really good guy come in and go, yeah, you know what? Well, we're going to be good this year. Like, I'm very skeptical on Kansas. Very, very skeptical on, at the end of the day, I'm very, very skeptical on a ton of Big 12 teams, but like KU, I just don't see. The Jalen Daniels thing, he's been there for forever. At this point, like, yeah, he kind of went on a little bit of a roll at the end of the year, but as an Oklahoma State fan, I've seen when your quarterback's been there maybe one too many years where all of a sudden offenses and defenses kind of game plan against him. That's what happened to Alan Bowman. Like, is Jalen Daniels going to be able to continue his kind of Big 12 upset streak? As last year he was in and out. He goes on and he beats BYU. He beats a couple other schools to keep them out of Big 12 title. Instead, Iowa State goes. State. It just seemed odd. But are we going to have an Avery Johnson where he makes a leap? Or is Avery Johnson pretty good, but not? Well, like, I think one of these Big 12 schools is going to have a Heisman Trophy kind of contender to come out of the blue and come out of the woodwork here and really elevate themselves over Arizona State. As much as I don't love saying that, I do think Baylor's pretty good. I think Dave Aranda's a really good coach. The 2021 Big 12 championship still gives me nightmares and frightens me. Just kind of overall as an Oklahoma State fan, it's like, hey man, what are we doing? That game is just so puzzling still today. But it doesn't make me worried as far as it goes with the rest of the Big 12. Like, I'm not worried about Baylor versus Joey McGuire and Texas Tech. I still think Baylor. I don't think Oklahoma State will Baylor. That's in here. I just am more skeptical on we think Noah Fabita is going to pull it off. Probably not at Arizona. UCF, their quarterback situation seems up in the air a little bit. Houston, are they going to be good? Like, I don't really love a lot of the 12 teams here overall. And that brings me back to is Big 12 a bunch of teams that are all coupled together, or are there actually definitive tiers we could break off and go, yeah, Arizona State, then it's 2 or 3 schools, then it's 4, whatever, where I think it might be just 6 schools all bunched together, and Arizona State might be leading the pack by just a little bit, and that's it.
Well, when I look at the Big 12, I think that's kind of even more so what it runs into. You get, I think there's probably 8, 9, probably 7 or 8, realistically, teams that if things go right, and they don't really need something to go wrong for Arizona State to win the Big 12, right? Versus, if you look at the SEC, I think even at the top of the SEC, you look at Georgia and Alabama, and Texas A&M and Ole Miss, all those schools, to beat Texas, to have an advantage of Texas, I think they need something to go wrong at Texas. Right? Everything can go right with them, but they still, like, Texas is still there, still going to be the most talented team on almost any field in the country, any given week. They're going to have one of the best coaches, especially offensively, and they're going to move the ball almost with ease against almost everybody in the country. Versus, like, in the Big 12, I look at it and go, hey, Baylor gets going, and all of a sudden, in week 13, we're talking about a 10-2 Baylor winning the Big 12 and having a spot in the college football playoff. I think it's a lot closer, and I think that's part of the enjoyment of what the Big 12 has become. Like, I think you get down to, like, your Cincinnati's, UCFs, and they're still a couple of years away from being competitive. But like I said, I think 6 or 7 at least, probably 8 teams in the Big 12 could win it this year, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I loved Big 12 conference championship last year. I was able to go, and oh man, I'm just blanking on his name, but the commissioner basically at the end of the day said, This is a conference that you don't know where you're getting your week in, week out. You don't know exactly what you're getting, but also this is a conference we're always going to play 9 conference games. No, that's a big deal for Big 10, Big 12, ACC teams even. And then you look at the SEC, and I got to say, got plenty of OU fans in my life and around just because I'm in the state of Oklahoma and grew up here. OU plays 7 ranked teams, 7 teams that are preseason ranked. Now, Michigan could end up being just nothing. I mean, they could end up having just a year where in second game of the year, they're like, hey, Michigan blows off the doors off OU or vice versa. We don't know where we're getting. But every other school on this list, like South Carolina, they've got a top-ranked quarterback. Ole Miss, probably not going to fall off a quarterback. Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, Texas, of course, like preseason ranked 3. OU's just got 7 teams they play that are ranked, and they still only play 8 conference games. So I look at the Big 12 and every team in the Big 12 and I'm going, okay, a couple things could break right for KU and they could all of a sudden go into the conference championship. Whereas if a couple of things break wrong for KU, they could have 4 to 5 wins and not see a bowl game. But if a couple of things break wrong for an SEC team, especially like OU, they could go winless in the conference. It is possible. It seems crazy. But OU's easy competition here is they play Jackson Arnold when he comes back to Norman, and the Tigers and Jeff Lovey. The other tough competition the other easy competition they have is they play Mizzou. Mizzou's rumored to have a decent team this year too. So now besides they're out of conference against Illinois State, Temple, Kent State, and Golden Flashes, who I think could be the worst team in college football, to be honest. The other that's basically it. They play 3 conference opponents and 1 other non-conference opponent, the Power 4, but there's not a lot of conferences like the Big 12 where you don't know exactly what you're getting until probably week 12. I mean, you're got to be so far down the line before you figure out the Big 12 picture when it comes to the championship. Yeah.
And, mentioning the SEC, Florida and Oklahoma are the 2 teams that, like, they stick out to me as, like, those, if they get 8 wins, they should be in that conversation of, like, depending on who they are, right? Like, if Oklahoma beat Texas in the Red River rivalry to get to 8, or, as part of their 8 wins, you kind of got to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt versus, like, and Florida's the same way, where Florida plays 10 Power 5 conference games this year, essentially. They play their 8 SEC, they play Florida State, and they play Miami. And, like, that's a tough schedule. You win 8 games playing 10 of them against the best in the country, Maybe you deserve a little bit more. But then again, when I look at their schedule, and this is a little fun fact for you, the first week that the SEC doesn't have an FCS or group of 5 slate on their schedule, like throughout the entire SEC. What week would you guess?
Well, OU plays Michigan week 2, so is it the second week?
No, it's week 9 before they play a team, before their whole, like the whole conference plays a Power 5.
For every single school plays.
And then you get after week 9, week 9 and 10 are that way, where it's almost all conference games. And then week 11 through Thanksgiving, through the week before Thanksgiving, there's at least one FCS or group of 5 opponent in every single weekend. And that changes how you prepare for, like, Alabama preparing for Auburn, A&M preparing for Texas. Like, it changes how you versus, like, you look in the Big Ten, Nebraska plays Penn State the week before they play Iowa. Right? Like, every week in the Big Ten and the Big 12, you're going to be playing. I mean, even if you go play Purdue or UCF, I don't think is going to be all that great this year. Right? Like, you go play them, there's days where you catch them on their hot days and you lose. Right? Or you're taking it into the fourth quarter because they're controlling the clock and making sure you don't have an opportunity to do what you want to do. Like, it changes how you prepare for every week when you're playing that extra Power 5 game, Power 4 game.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a great point because, for example, Iowa State. I would think Iowa State has probably a pretty easy schedule when I look at it, except, non-conference wise, they've got an Iowa, which Iowa's not a ranked preseason team, so I'm not putting them in the top 20. I'm not. Kirk Ferentz is not going down without a fight. It's a home game for Iowa State. There's just kind of all the things here. They also play South Dakota Coyotes. They play Arkansas State. But, oh, wait, August 23rd, almost a month away, the Aer Lingus Classic, which I have had no help in selling tickets for whatsoever. They play K-State over in Dublin. Like, you think Iowa State versus K-State and Ireland's just going to be an easy matchup? Not a chance. And then, you get to come back to, the U.S. and play home, and you have no week off. You play South Dakota Coyotes, which I would assume would be a win. It's the FCS team. Or FBS team, excuse me. But then you have Iowa. All right. But their first week off you have is a month after your first game. And then you got Arizona, which, I'm not saying the Big 12 opponents are all tough here, but you're telling me Iowa State's looking at their schedule right now and going, we get Thanksgiving, we got to go to Stillwater for their senior day. That'll be easy. It just won't. It won't be easy. There's not an easy game that they've got the whole season. I would say they don't have a really tough game besides maybe week 1 or maybe week 3 against Iowa. But they play BYU. They get them at home. They play Arizona State the next week, also at home. Both those teams should be pretty good, even though BYU's, of course, got a new quarterback. I'm curious if their preseason rankings will drop at all or change. But Utah plays UCLA. I would guess that'd be a win for Utah. But then the rest of Utah's schedule isn't easy. If you get to play West Virginia, Cincinnati, and UCF, I think your schedule will be pretty easy comparatively to the Big 12. And the one team that gets to excel at that is BYU, who's got a brand new quarterback because a bunch of other offseason allocations. Jake Retzlaff transferred today when we're recording this to Tulane, so I do know all about that. But I don't think of TCU as just an easy. I don't think of any Big 12 team as being, we're going to be able to just kill them.
Yeah, and so I mentioned this a lot, right? So there's a lot of, not confusion, but a lot of wariness in Nebraska fans, especially in Texas A&M as well. With you look at Texas A&M's schedule, my gut check on them, they go 10-2. They lose to Notre Dame and they lose to Texas. Everything else, it leans in their favor, right? There's no easy game in the SEC, but I listen to writers and people all the time for both of them, and both of them are like, hey, we know what the schedule looks like. We know what we have, but Nebraska, we have to play at Maryland, on weeks 6 or 7. And then we have a short week to go to Minneapolis. We play Saturday, then Friday. And like all of the writers are like, Nebraska could lose that game in Minnesota. And part of me goes, of course, like any given week you can lose. But if you want to be the Alabamas, Georgias, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, right? Like those top tier teams. You think Alabama is really concerned about Vandy? Like, I know they lost to them last year, but like, you really think any Alabama fan is out there going, we have to play Vanderbilt next week? No. Like, there's never a word that like, okay, we're going to beat Vandy by 50. And like, I don't know what it takes to get from like winning close games to doing what Alabama and Georgia, like getting those games where you just beat the brakes off of them. But like, that needs to be the expectation set for these coaches. Like Mike Elko, maybe you give him another year before you give him that. But like Matt Rule, the expectation has to be, you go to Maryland. Okay. Yeah. It's a short week. Or you go from Maryland to Minnesota. Yeah. It's a short week. Go beat them. Like beat them by 20, pack up the suitcases, go home. Like I think that same thing with Cincinnati. We play Cincinnati week 1, Thursday night in Kansas City. That's essentially a home game for Nebraska. You kind of got to go and just beat them. You got to go beat them by 14 or 17 points, where Nebraska fans aren't biting their nails going, oh God, it's another one-score game. Like, are we going to lose another one-score game? Like, you got to go and say, here's our quarterback. Here's Dylan Raiola. Here's all the stuff that we've done over the last 9 months since we played Boston College in the bowl game. Like, here's what we are this year. And you just kind of beat the crap out of somebody that, frankly, 10 years ago, if Cincinnati would have come to Kansas City to play Nebraska at a neutral site, everybody would have said, all right, Nebraska, like that would be markered in on almost everybody's schedule to win. So, like, I think the expectation needs to change more than anything on, and even like Gundy, right? Like Gundy's been there for 20 years. From a outside looking in perspective, if I think of TCU, I think, yes, Oklahoma State should go in and punish TCU for even showing up that day. Like, okay, going to Oregon, I'll give you that. Not when you can go, okay, we might lose by a little bit. But like even the Penn State game for Nebraska this year, I don't think we're going to get like, as long as we're healthy enough to like put on a team of knock freshmen, like I think we're going to be a competitive game. Like we took Ohio State to the last drive last year, and that was a worse team than what we're supposed to be this year. Like I'm not sure how to set those expectations as a fan who's been in the middle of the pack, bottom of the pack for a long time. And now these expectations, like Joel Klatt thinks Nebraska's the 10th most likely team to make their first appearance in the college football playoff. Like these national writers keep putting Nebraska 9, 10. I saw one at 11 wins. Like you got to meet those expectations if you're Matt Rule this year. Because moving forward, I don't know how much of a more generous schedule you're going to. Like next year, we play Oregon, Washington, and Ohio State. Not to mention Wisconsin, who could be better. Iowa, who's always Iowa. Like, this is the schedule that if Matt Rule is going to take advantage of it, he has to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking here. You guys get this year, you get Northwestern, you get UCLA, you get Minnesota, Maryland, Michigan State for homecoming. Yeah, you guys get some matchups where I go, okay, I mean, non-conference wise, Cincinnati will be not a rollover, but I would assume Nebraska would win year in, year out. But also they'll tell us how good is Brennan Sorsby. Like how good is Cincinnati?
Yep.
I mean, there are a lot of Big 12 fans that I talk to who are not Oklahoma State fans who go, I mean, you can drink the Kool-Aid all you want to, Cal, but you guys aren't that good. And I agree. I mean, I don't think we're that good, but I'm hoping for 6 wins. That's what I'm hoping for if we kind of like look at the schedule and break the whole thing down here. I'm hoping that it looks something like, of course, win the 2 non-conference that should be wins, UT Martin and Tulsa. Probably lose at Oregon second week of the season with the freshman-ish quarterback, however you want to say it. I think we can just kind of go ahead and pencil that one in here. Maybe write it down in Sharpie, but maybe a really lightly with pen for the time being. The Oregon game. But then you've got Baylor at home. Okay, first home conference game, but it's Baylor. I think they're pretty good this year. I think Dave Brand is a good coach team. I don't think we're going to catch them by surprise necessarily. And so that's probably a win there for Baylor. Granted, we get a bye week in between, which is cool, but like, what does that do for us in the day? But then we go to Arizona, Houston at home, we have Cincinnati at home. Those 3 for me have to be wins for us to get to that 6th win. Because otherwise, I mean, Texas Tech an away game, KU an away game. I don't love KU, but I don't love Oklahoma State either this year, just because you do have the quarterback situation up in the air, and that's what Gundy has relied upon for so long, for the offense to come through, play really good, and perform, is we've had a really good quarterback situation. And this is the first year in quite some time that I can remember of us going, well, what does QB look like this year for Oklahoma State? First year since I think Spencer Sanders' first year starting that I'm this up in the air. And I didn't even think Sanders' first year starting, I was a little more confident I mean, Sanders won the Gatorade Player of the Year for Texas the year, like before he came to Oklahoma State. It was a different feel, different vibe. It was not coming off of a 3-9 season either. It was still coming back with other guys on the roster. Sanders looked good, and all available game footage and stuff. Whereas I don't know. I memean, I pray that it's, by the time we end up in homecoming against Cincinnati, we're all of a sudden just 5-2. But I think there's an option where we're not that good either. Let's see. Yeah, 5-2. Yeah, I mean, what do you think of when you're thinking of the Big 12? Do you think it is like one team that is better than everyone else, or do you think there's maybe like just kind of 6 all grouped together?
No, I think it's that like 6, 7 teams. Like I like the expression like everything goes right for them, but like I don't even know. Like you get to Baylor, Utah. Like everything went wrong for Utah last year, and Utah won 6 games. Like that's right, or did they win 5? Whatever it was. But like everything went wrong for Utah, and they won enough games to be like right there for the postseason. Talking about a bowl game, they're going to be a tough out, and they're maybe the most physical team in the Big 12. Like, gonna run it down your throat and say, we're stronger than you, stop us, and then we'll do something else.
Yeah, but Utah weirdly beat Oklahoma State last year in Stillwater, the 4th game of the season, and that was their 4th win. And they didn't win another game until they played at UCF to end the season. So they went 5-7. But yeah, you're right. They had a season where they had some injuries. They lose to Iowa State by 3, and at home they lose to BYU by 1 in the Holy War. So it was a weird year for Utah. But there are teams in the Big 12 that when they joined the conference, I was thinking year in, year out to be a rollover win. But then the Oklahoma State just doesn't look that dominant. We just last year just caught me so off guard. Such a surprisingly weird year to be 3-9. But it's not like Alan Bowman got hurt week 3 and then never played again. He was still starting games for most of the season until I think the very last one, or very last 2 maybe. So it just is. It's a tough deal being an Oklahoma State fan and trying to make sense of this schedule here, I would say. Yeah. You don't know where you're going to get it. It seems like here.
And looking at it, and again, maybe this is just my lack of knowing Big 12 football, but like I see UCF, and Granted, I'm probably a little bit lower on UCF than I should be, but I also just went through 2 weeks of hearing about what Scott Frost said about Nebraska and all that. So maybe that's a little bit on my radar for disappointment, but UCF, I feel like that should be a win. Kansas, I'm working backwards. Iowa State, that's a tough game, especially if Iowa State playing for a chance to go to the Big 10 championship or Big 12 championship game. Kansas State, I feel like that late in the season, they are probably going to be right in that mix, that 8, 9, 10 win mix where they could be there. I don't know that Kansas is going to be that good. Kansas always, you mentioned it about Jalen Daniel, right? Their quarterback. He's been there for 6 years, it feels like.
Yeah, Jalen Daniels. He's gotten injured most of the time. Most year in year out, he gets injured. I pray he doesn't get injured, but I don't hold it as 100% confidence either.
Yeah. And even when he's played, I feel like he hasn't been that great. And he doesn't blow me away as he's not a first round pick. He's not a guy that's a sleeper to Heisman for me. But continuing on, Texas Tech, that's going to be a tough game, but you should beat Cincinnati. You should beat Houston. At Arizona is a tough game, but winnable. Baylor at home, you mentioned it's homecoming, winnable.
Well, the Cincinnati game's the homecoming one. The Baylor one, I don't. Yeah, but I want to ask you. I mean, say Arizona's winnable. Arizona to me has to be I'm looking through the SI.com preseason Big 12 rankings 2 days ago here when we're recording this on 21st. Arizona's ranked 13th. Oklahoma State's ranked 14th. I think we're neck and neck. So I would give it to the home team in that case, which sucks because that's Arizona. But all of a sudden, just how is this Oklahoma State getting to 6 wins? Has to be a Gundy win, a fluky Gundy win somewhere in there. Last year, that fluky Gundy win was against Arkansas in week 2. That was just a double overtime win. How do we pull that one off is bizarre. This year, I think it's...
Well,
I think this year it's got to be we win at UCF. I'm with you. I don't think UCF will be good. But when we played them in 2023, 2 years ago at UCF, and we went and ended up playing...
we were sitting in the airport together that day. We were watching that game, and that was a game where when it started, we were or in the hotel, I think we were. But we were sitting there watching, and I was like, oh, this game's over, right? In the first quarter, I think you guys went up 7-0 or something like that.
We score a point.
You didn't score?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I think that was a different game.
I'm misremembering the game.
Yeah, I think that's a different game. Because the UCF game was rainy. We lost 42-0. I'm saying there's teams that I don't love playing against. And early on, when I've done a bunch of the Big 12 Huddle podcast, the guy named Roger who does the UCF, the United Ones podcast, and being a UCF fan, really high on them. He's been able to stick me with it every time. It's annoying because he's like, hey, UCF's good. I'm like, I guess so. I can't say they're not good when they kill us. They beat us more besides, I think besides women's tennis, I think we've killed them in. There's just, and I think in softball, we've beat them a bunch. It's just a weird deal that UCF is as good as they are, in my opinion, because they just have gotten so good so quickly as a college, as a university in football. They all of a sudden they were in the American not even a decade ago. What? This is crazy.
Not even 3 years ago. Yeah,
it just is crazy to me.
Well, and I'm very curious. And you say that Oklahoma State could be that team, though. Okay, you lose to Oregon, but if I told you, all right, you beat Tulsa, you beat Baylor, and you beat Arizona, that completely changes your outlook and you beat Houston, right? Say you start 3-0 in conference, that entirely changes your outcome because now you're looking at Cincinnati, you're penciling that as a win. You're penciling Kansas as a win. You're saying we're going to compete with Kansas State, Iowa State, Texas Tech. And now you're looking at 9-10 win season right there to be in contention for the Big 12.
I would just say I think it's really tough for me to think that we're going to be anywhere near competitive against Oregon. I think Dante Moore, Oregon's quarterback, he was the best player of the year coming out of Michigan. The year he came out and went to UCLA, he played really, really poorly for a UCLA team that did not have a lot of talent on it, and they transferred to Oregon and sits behind, the round 3 draft pick to the Cleveland Browns. Not the 5th round pick, just want to say. And all of a sudden I'm going, yeah, Oregon might be better than they were last year. Like, I think it's possible they're better this year than they were last year. And that's if this was in Stillwater, night game, some weird kind of like voodoo going on, yeah, I might be able to go, yeah, Gundy covers, but like, I just don't think.
Well, and you look at what Boise State did to them last year. I mean, if you want hope, right? You want hope for that game. Here, I'm gonna fill up your Kool-Aid cup here. You want hope for it. You look at that Boise State game, and yeah, they had Ashton Genty, who, in all reality, I mean, that was the only game in the first half of their season they played 4 quarters in. But it was a close game. Boise State had a shot to beat them. And who knows how that changes Oregon's outlook on last year, but Oregon and Dan Lanning, great coach, love him, but they start slow. Like they might chug along a little bit where you're in the 4th quarter going, Dane Flores throws touchdown pass or doesn't fumble, like this thing needs to go right. And all of a sudden you're in a 1 possession game with Oregon going down to in the last quarter. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I say that, and now they're going to get blown out by like 70, but
I would love for us to be competitive in that game, but I'll already tell you, I'm not circling that game as like must watch live. I watch every single Oklahoma State game, but that's not one that I've got when I've, of course, got a buddy getting married that weekend. And that's not one of those that I'm like, hey, sorry, not going. I mean, it's one of those from like, yeah, I think there's a good chance. Unfortunately, that Oklahoma State doesn't really compete against Oregon in week 2. And I think there's a good chance here that like several weeks throughout the season, but I mean, especially like K-State, hey, it's a home game. You can tell me whatever you want to, but 2 years ago, I didn't think we'd compete against K-State after losing to South Alabama. And I'm like, you know what? And then losing that K-State game, you could have told me nothing. Like Kanye West, can't tell me nothing. It was just an incredible feeling of beating K-State when we did. We're like, oh my gosh, can't believe we pulled that one off. Because it wasn't a bedlam game where it's like we're freaking out. Yeah, because we win. It was like, wow, okay, all right, this team might be much better than I thought they would be. But the whole quarterback up in the air deal gives me, doesn't settle my stomach at all. It definitely
is it an open battle?
It's an open competition between the two.
I didn't
guys.
know if they were just like Zane Flores and he's. I think that would that give you more confidence, or would you be a little more concerned about it?
I would be super. Transfer? I would love for Gundy to name and be like, hey, Zane Flores, that's it. Moving on. It's not Hosseini's brought in. It's another guy. Came over with Doug Meacham, TCU guy. So Zane has been with Oklahoma State now. I think this is his 3rd year with Oklahoma State. I think he's got a medical redshirt last year and then a redshirt the year before. Of course, you can reactively apply for the medicals. I don't think he has. But then you've got Hosseini, who is a TCU guy, who played at TCU last year, took 18 total snaps without 1 pass attempt for TCU last year. Of course, the Josh Hoover team, where you're like, why is this guy even taking snaps over Hoover? But it's really in some blowouts and not anytime at all matters. And then we took TCU's wide receivers coach, Doug Meacham, and brought him to Stillwater, who's a former Oklahoma State guy. Meacham was back with the Cowboys back in the Brandon Weeden and kind of Mason Rudolph early days. So you figured that Meacham brings in Hosseini because it didn't happen like immediately the same day or something. Figure that Meacham kind of goes, hey, you know what? I think Hoss could get some minutes, could start. You're trying to recruit him. And he's a 3 or 4 star, depending on how you look at the ratings. Zane's the same way, 3 or 4 star look at ratings. I would feel a lot more confident if Gundy just named starter going into week 1. Because it's UT Martin. Yeah. And all due respect, I know they are a football team, but like UT Martin's a team that we shouldn't be worried about not naming the starter against.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And like Michigan last year did it where they didn't name a starter going into week 1, and it was their FCS opponent or, cakewalk week 1 game. And I watched it. I think it was on before the Nebraska game. And it was just one of those games that it was like, it didn't feel like it had rhythm. Like the team kind of felt scattered. Defensively, they were great, right? Like they weren't getting the ball moved on them at all. And you're talking about just this offense that one drive, you'd come in and it was read option and RPO, and then the next drives you'd come in and you're basically running the air raid. You're throwing it 3 downs in a row, and then doing draws and screens to your run game. And I think it's one thing if they're similar, right? Like if Zane Flores and these other guys are all like, hey, they are the same. Like we're not changing the offense based on like how they're going to come in and play. I think that gives you, or maybe gives you a little bit more confidence and belief in them being able to, hey, we don't know who's the best yet. We want to see them in front of fans and how they're going to react. And, you get in the middle of Stillwater in August, and it's a different atmosphere than practice, even if it's your own team, So like get them out there, give one guy a drive, give the next guy a drive, maybe do that back and forth. But I would like a starter, but as long as you're not kind of doing that Michigan last year where it's like your offense entirely shifts because of the skill sets of your quarterbacks, I think you'd be okay, especially in that UT Martin game. No offense to UT Martin.
It is what it is. I mean, we're paying them to come to Stillwater to play football. I mean, we're not sugarcoating it. We're not sugarcoating it too much. I'm with you. I don't like the open quarterback competition when Gundy does it because it does not lead, in my opinion, to a sustainable team. And I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Hey, Zane comes out, plays real well. We don't ever put Haas in. That's it. And then also I could see on the other end where Zane comes out, looks a little interesting, looks a little up in the air, or Haas comes out. Who knows who comes out first, honestly, on taking snaps. Week 1, Thursday night, August 28th. And TBD, because when we played Central Arkansas, it ended up being 27-13. Ended up being a decent game, but there were 3 different quarterbacks. 2 is probably better than 3 to have a quarterback rotation, I would guess, or I would hope. But
yeah,
I look
if
back
you got
at
a 3 quarterback rotation, then you're just out. I mean, you're just.
Well, we beat
Then you're
Arizona
trying.
State 2 years ago with a 3 quarterback rotation when they weren't in the conference yet. That's an Arizona State team that ended up going 3-9 on the season. We lost to South Alabama home 33-7. That's a South Alabama team that went 7-6. Like, but this is also this 2023 year I'm talking about because it's also a year Oklahoma State went 10-4. Like we played the Big 12 championship game, got blown out by Texas, and then we beat you guys. We beat the A&M Aggies, 31-23. After most of your team transferred or didn't play in the game, to be all fair to everyone. Yeah. But like we beat Houston 43-30, and we ended up having to come back in the game late to kind of put them away and win. And excuse me, we did score 3 points against UCF. It was 45-3 was the final score. So I don't know how we kicked a field goal in that, rainy white game, but that's a week after we beat OU 27-24. And that was Caleb Williams' OU team, but that was still a good OU team. So
now that was, wasn't Spencer Rattler. Who was it?
2 years ago for OU, 2023.
Yeah,
maybe it was Caleb Williams.
No, because I think that was the year Caleb Williams won the Heisman. So he would have been at USC.
Yeah, 2023 OU.
Rattler transferred right after. Who was it?
Yeah. All right. Well, it was Dylan Gabriel.
Oh, it was.
The other OU guy who transferred out. Yeah, forget. Yeah. All right, we'll kind of wrap it up here with this. In your heart of hearts, what do you think Oklahoma State's record is at the end of the season? Look at the schedule here.
When I look at it, I see the ceiling of 8 wins and being right there in that conversation. Just like I said, you get on a roll and you beat Tulsa, beat Baylor, you beat Arizona, you beat Houston, you beat Cincinnati. You're 4-0 going into those last 5 conference games. That's a tough. I mean, that's 5 wins, right? And then you have to get 1 to get bowl eligible. But like I said, you look at any team in the Big 12. I can see Oklahoma State beating Texas Tech on any given week. I can see them beating Kansas State on any given week, just depending on, it could be one bad injury for another team. Hopefully not. It can be, whoever wins the battle for Oklahoma State it is a Heisman contender, I feel like you'd know who's the starter if one of them was that much above the others. But in all reality, I'd probably put out a 7-5 would be my record floor. You're winning. I see you winning more games than you did last year. Probably 4-8 would be 4-8 would be my floor for you. 8-3 would be 3-4 would be my ceiling. Probably going to be a 7-5 team. Would be my guess.
All right. Well, it's not. There's a big margin for error either way.
Yeah,
it that way here. Yeah. 2 different things could happen. Well, Trevor, thanks so much here for joining the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. We'll end it out on that note because I'll have my official season prediction maybe a week out. Fall practice starts next week here. We're recording this on July 21st. So when you're listening to this, give a shout out. Follow at the CGA Tour on barely any platform, but especially here on YouTube. That's our listening and viewing. Seeing both of our beautiful faces, of course, here. And we'll catch you guys again soon.